Revealed, the hidden wife of Joseph, a divine blessing transforming two sacred tribes of Israel. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, a famine gripped the lands as a distant memory of prosperity faded beneath the weight of despair. This was the time when Joseph, once a prisoner, found himself exalted to the position of ruler in Egypt under Pharaoh, interpreting dreams and securing the future of the nation. Yet within the court's splendid walls, another story awaited to be revealed, one that entwined the threads of legacy, love, and divine purpose through his wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. Asenath stood at the convergence of two worlds, the reverent traditions of her Egyptian lineage and the steadfast faith of Joseph's God. Her father, schooled in the rites and rituals of their pantheon, prepared her for a life steeped in customs teetering on the brink of idolatry. Yet she calculated each step beside her husband as he navigated the politically charged atmosphere of the court, his dreams becoming the stepping stones of salvation through great 7-year cycles of abundance, soon shifting the tide into dire famine. In the depths of winter shadow, Joseph's brothers journeyed to Egypt seeking sustenance, their footsteps echoing through the vast halls of the palace. Asenath, standing by in expectation, felt the tremors of her husband's lineage bound in histories both tragic and triumphant. Memories rang in her ears, fragments of stories shared over candlelit feasts, of quarrels and reconciliations among patriarchs. Yet anxiety clung to her heart like morning dew. How would they perceive her? A foreign priestess amidst their kin's embrace seemed a precarious balance. Gathering grain, she turned in prayer to Joseph's God, seeking wisdom. Would they allow her presence, holding the weight of her father's traditions close to the vest? Would they deny the miracle of their brother's elevation, their minds clouded with resentment? The God of Abraham whispered possibilities into her heart as she envisioned uniting two factions entrenched in their histories, a fusion becoming part of a greater covenant. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the doors of their home parted, revealing her husband's brothers, torn by guilt, shadows of the past stark on their faces, Asenath's breath caught in the tension.
Joseph stood before them, tears swimming in a heart longing for reconciliation. The heaviness of their shared legacy hung in the air. They would soon unearth the layers of hurt, loyalty, and the interwoven fates of all involved. Would her identity as the daughter of a priest be ratified or rejected? Would they see in her the blessing of unity through her children born of Israel's tribe? The question lingered as the sun dipped into the horizon, shadows retreating to leave behind the possibility of a new dawn. Asenath grasped tightly to hope, awaiting revelation in the covenant promise, knowing that her family's destiny awaited under the watchful gaze of the one who can blend even the darkest threats into a tapestry of grace. As the silence enveloped the room, Joseph's gaze fell upon the brothers who had once cast him into the depths of despair, their eyes downcast, burdened by guilt and shame. The weight of their transgressions pressed heavily upon their hearts, yet the Spirit of God stirred within Joseph. He cleared his throat, and his voice resonated with compassion, infused with the wisdom of years spent apart. "Brothers, why do you look so distressed?" he asked, his words a gentle call to the wounded hearts before him. "You came to seek food, but God has sent you to find me." A sudden silence enveloped the brothers as recognition dawned upon them. Their minds raced through echoes of betrayal, and their hearts trembled at the possibility of forgiveness. The air grew thick with anticipation as Joseph continued. "You sold me into slavery to make a profit, yet I stand before you now, not as your accuser, but as the deliverer of our family." Asenath, standing beside her husband, felt a deep stirring in her spirit. She watched the transformation, the divine essence of reconciliation that began to weave through the familial struggle. She took a step forward, her voice steady, filled with both humility and strength. I am Asenath, your brother's wife. United in this land of Egypt, we stand as evidence of God's providential hand, joining our homes and heritage. The brothers lifted their gaze, and in that moment, the barrier of judgment cracked. They saw the reflection of their brother's love mirrored in the eyes of the woman who stood at his side, one who blended both cultures and carried within her heart the rare fruits of mercy and grace. Forgive us, great ruler, Judah pleaded, stepping forth. We have wandered in darkness, borne the guilt of our actions. With every word, a tangible release of burdens occurred. Joseph's heart swelled, and he reached out, enfolding Judah in a warm embrace. I have forgiven you. Indeed, our journeys were fashioned by the hands of God. The struggle has been for our greater good. Tears flowed freely as Joseph and his brothers wept together, the streams of their sorrow born anew into rivers of healing.
Asenath stood back, beholding the transcendence of God's plan as the familial bonds began to knit anew with threads of forgiveness and grace. But even as joy pulsed in the air, a dark remembrance surfaced in Joseph's heart. The prophecy whispered of the trials still to come, that the journey of reconciliation, though begun, would lead through pathways of testing yet unknown. For as it was written in the covenant given to Abraham, I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. The echo of fate rang true. The moon cast a silver glow through the palace windows as they sat together, once again as brothers, united by blood and spirit. With great joy sparked by the sight of redemption, Asenath found her voice, turning her gaze upward in prayer. O Lord, sovereign of all, let this be a beginning, a covenant of unity that shall echo through generations. And as the brethren feasted that night, the plans of the Almighty stretched beyond the present, for in the turning of hearts, God was establishing a legacy, not just for Joseph's family, but for all of Israel. But what Asenath did not yet comprehend was that the broader tapestry was still unfolding. Her children held a promise that would transcend even their understanding. For the dawn of a new purpose lingered on the horizon, marking a testament to God's enduring faithfulness, one that would shape the destiny of nations yet unseen. As the night deepened, the stars adorned the Egyptian sky, their light a reflection of the hope that now filled Joseph's heart. The laughter and tears shared at the feast were signs of new beginnings, yet an unspoken tension lingered beneath the joyous surface. Joseph, now seated among his brothers, sensed the stirring of divine destiny. Brothers, he began, his voice steady yet tinged with gravity, before we indulge any further, there is something that must be known. A weighty silence descended, drawing every eye upon him, electric with anticipation. God has indeed brought me here to save lives, but our journey has only just begun. The brothers shifted, unease mingling with hope within their hearts. Reuben, eyes wide, leaned forward as if to catch the very breath of Joseph's words. What do you mean, brother? Have we not found favor in your sight? Joseph took a moment, gathering the threads of his thoughts, aware that the truth could unravel their newfound peace. You see, I have discerned a deeper significance in our reunion. Beyond this banquet of reconciliation lies the reality of future trials that will test us all. His voice rose, capturing their undivided attention. Remember the dreams I spoke to you of? The sheaves bowing low? Those visions were not mere folly. They were prophetic. Judah swallowed hard, the memory of Joseph's dreams haunting him. But, dear brother, what trials await us? We have already tasted the bitterness of our past. With a solemn nod, Joseph continued, In the years to come, famine shall strike the land again, worse than what you have encountered. Egypt will be a refuge, but it will also become a battleground for the soul. The knowledge of this must guide our hearts and unite our steps. Asenath, who had been silent, interjected softly, her voice of balm amidst the turmoil of spirits. What hope can we cling to in the midst of such foreboding? Surely, God has not led us to this juncture for despair's claim to prevail? Your wisdom shines bright, Asenath, Joseph replied, his gaze warm. Indeed, hope remains, for God's faithfulness endures through our trials. He is weaving a tapestry of salvation. At that moment, an overwhelming stillness in the air thickened, as if the heavens themselves stood at rapt attention.
Joseph proclaimed, "God has ordained that we shall gather our families, and in time we will be called to return to Canaan. There we must prepare for the deliverance that is yet to come." The brothers leaned in, heartbeats quickening as the promise of their ancestors sprung to life. "You mean," Benjamin asked, "the promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Those ancient words shall not fail?" "Indeed," Joseph affirmed, his voice resonating with authority. "But first, we must overcome the trials that test our faith. The unity of our hearts, the strength of our bond, will speak to future generations." In his heart, he felt the stirrings of prophetic insight, igniting a flame of purpose that breathed life into his words. As night further encompassed the palace, Joseph called forth a servant, bidding him to bring forth garments for his brothers to wear, tokens of honor, not shame. "These shall be reminders of our unity, blessings to be bestowed upon our families, and the foundations of Israel that shall arise in years to come." And as they adorned themselves with richness, grounded in the love of brotherhood, an ancient prophecy began to flicker on the horizon of divine consciousness. For even as the moon illuminated their gathering, a deeper truth began to emerge. Joseph not only stood as a deliverer, but as a pillar of the lineage that would bless the earth. But within Asenath's heart, a whisper echoed, one that would lead her soul on a path unforeseen. She knelt in prayer, seeking understanding of the divine purpose unfolding before her, unaware that a secret yet lay hidden within her womb, a promise reflecting God's sovereign plan, destined to alter the course of Israel's future in ways yet imagined. And as the dawn broke upon the horizon, spilling golden light over the land of Egypt, Joseph perceived an urgency stirring within his spirit. He gathered his brothers, their faces reflecting a blend of hope and apprehension, each wrestling with the weight of their past. "Brothers," Joseph said, his voice firm yet tender, "as we contemplate the paths that lie before us, you must be prepared for what is to come.
Our unity must not falter during these trials, for the Lord our God has devised a plan that extends beyond our understanding." Judah, emboldened by the fire of their newly rekindled bond, raised his eyes to Joseph. "What manner of trials do you foresee? We cannot bear another burden like that which we carried during our youth, the anguish of our father's grief. Speak to us, Joseph." With his gaze cast toward the fields of Egypt, Joseph ventured further into the depths of the prophecy he felt burning in his heart. "I have seen in my visions that famine will sweep across the lands of Canaan, and its grip will render even the most prosperous among us desolate. But fear not, for our family shall be a beacon of hope." His brothers exchanged troubled looks, yet a glimmer of determination began to emerge. "How shall we prepare?" Simeon inquired, the strength of his voice calling them to action. "What of our father? He must be warned." "Indeed, we shall send word to Jacob to gather our kin. They must journey to Egypt, where God has set me as the overseer of grain and sustenance during this time of need," Joseph replied, a prophetic resolve igniting within him. As Asenath drew near, the warmth of her presence enveloped Joseph. "Husband," she spoke quietly, "let this plan be steeped in prayer. May the Lord guide us as we seek to fulfill his purposes." Joseph nodded, admiring the courage and wisdom of his beloved. "You are correct, my love. We will seek the Lord in this matter. We will fast, and by his grace we shall receive clarity." The brothers murmured their agreement, their hearts pulsating with a shared anticipation. That night, they gathered together, lifting their voices in prayer for their families and the land they once called home. Their cries reverberated through the stillness, sending forth a message to the heavens, laying bare their fears and hopes alike. As the sun set, casting a twilight hue upon their gathering, a profound silence enveloped them. It was in this stillness that Joseph sensed the movement of the divine. "Brothers," he said, his voice softening, "while we have encountered darkness, the dawn is coming. The Lord is preparing to confound the wise and elevate the humble. Our tribulations will be but a moment compared to the glory that awaits. We must be a cherished vessel in his sight." Asenath felt the stirring within her womb, a gentle reminder of the promise to come. Her own heart swelled with understanding. This child was part of the tapestry God was weaving through their lives. She turned her gaze toward Joseph, their eyes locking in a moment of unspoken connection. In that moment of communion, Joseph felt a surge of prophetic insight, a clearer understanding illuminating the shadows of uncertainty. When Israel comes to Egypt, there shall be great provision and prosperity. Nations will turn to us in their desperation, and God's chosen will rise as witnesses of his faithfulness. Unbeknownst to them,
Beyond the reaches of their understanding, the machinations of Pharaoh's court began to unfold, destined to intertwine with the fates of Jacob's sons. For while they designed their escape from famine, a greater deliverance was at hand, a sovereign plan that would echo through the generations yet to come. And deep within Asenath's heart, the whispers of God's covenant echoed, a divine harmony, signaling that through her lineage, the promise to Abraham and Sarah would flourish and take root, changing the history of Israel and the world. But what they did not yet know was that the path before them would not merely test their hearts, but would unveil the hidden grace of God in ways they could scarcely imagine. And it came to pass that, in the stillness of the night, while the brothers offered prayers for guidance, a deep sleep fell upon Joseph. And as he lay, the Lord spoke to him in a dream, revealing yet more of his divine purposes. "Joseph," the voice echoed in the silence, "the hardships shall not solely be for you and your kin, but through your faithfulness I will bring the nations of the earth to bow before my provision. The heart of Pharaoh will be turned toward you, for I have placed favor upon your life." Awakening with a start, Joseph's heart raced as the remnants of the vision lingered in his mind. He looked upon Asenath, still slumbering peacefully beside him, her beauty a reflection of hope. He marveled at how God had intertwined their fates, and how through her lineage a great blessing was surely to come. As dawn broke anew, Joseph called his brothers to him once more, urgency woven into his words. "The Lord has affirmed his promise. We must prepare a swift message for our father, so that he and our household may come to Egypt before the famine besieges us all. He must know that here there is provision and safety, a refuge orchestrated by God himself." "Let us not delay," Reuben, the eldest, urged, his face etched with concern for Jacob's well-being. "We shall dispatch messengers to reach Canaan, for time is of the essence." And so the brothers gathered what they could, writing letters filled with hope and urgency, detailing the abundance that awaited Jacob and their families. They entrusted these proclamations to swift runners, sending them forth into the distance, praying for their safe return. Days passed, and while they awaited their father's response, Joseph busied himself, overseeing the granaries of Egypt, directing the laborers to store grain from the harvests. The Lord's bounty was rich and plentiful, filling silos to the brim, for God had not only given him wisdom, but also a vision of what was yet to come. Asenath remained close to Joseph during this time, her heart aligning with the weight of purpose that hung in the air. "You see, Joseph," she said one evening as they surveyed the ripening fields, "the Lord is doing a mighty work through you. Nations will indeed look to you for sustenance, but what shall become of us? Our hearts must remain steadfast." Joseph held her close, sensing the fear of uncertainty that accompanied her words. "The Lord is with us, Asenath. His covenant promises shall not fail. Through you and this child, generations will speak of his faithfulness." It was then that they received news from the messengers. Their father, Jacob, overwhelmed with joy and trepidation, had resolved to come to Egypt with the entire household. Jacob could not fathom the providence that had renewed his sons' bonds, nor the restoration of their family, but he felt the stirring of hope in his spirit. As the clan began to gather their belongings, there was an air of excitement, yet also a heaviness, for the journey that lay ahead would not be without its trials. Joseph, standing at the threshold of his destiny, felt the weight of this divine unfolding. As they prepared, whispers of Pharaoh's court hinted at unrest. The king's advisers began to question the emerging influence of Joseph, fearing that the tides of fortune might shift with the arrival of his family. Little did they know that God was orchestrating each moment, weaving the fates of many into his grand design, while aligning Joseph's path with that of Israel in ways unseen. In the depths of Asenath's heart, she pondered the implications of their journey. Would this new arrival mark the time when her child would bear the weight of the generations? And as she gazed upon Joseph, she felt a divine promise echo within. Through the lineage of Judah, and with the blessing of Ephraim and Manasseh, all shall indeed come to pass. The time had come for the fulfillment of promises long awaited, but beyond the horizon lay shadows of trials that would test their faith yet again. For it was the plan of God to transform not only the tribes of Israel, but the very essence of humanity,
beckoning them toward a divine horizon they had yet to perceive. And it came to pass that the days grew weary as Jacob prepared to depart from Canaan with his sons and their families. The news that had traveled to the heart of their camp stirred both excitement and doubt within him. Fear gripped his heart like a tightening cord, yet the promise of reunion with Joseph compelled him forward. "Shall I entrust my sons, my beloved, into the breadth of a foreign land?" he pondered. Yet the weight of God's whispers propelled him onward, for he could not ignore the echoes of the Almighty's faithfulness. As Jacob journeyed toward Egypt, the air around him was thick with anticipation. He prayed fervently, pleading with the God of his fathers for favor, that he might be led to his son once more. The sun cast golden rays upon them, illuminating their path as they journeyed, and each step taken resonated with the assurance that the Lord had set their course. In Egypt, Joseph was filled with a growing sense of urgency.
Assurance from his heavenly dream rested heavily upon him. "Indeed they shall come, he murmured, refocusing his vision upon the land's bounteous harvest. Yet among the jubilation, doubts arose in whispers, echoing through the corridors of Pharaoh's palace. The advisers, unsettled by Joseph's rising influence, eyed his family's arrival as a harbinger of potential discord. Word reached Joseph that his father had departed with all in his household. His heart raced with both joy and trepidation. Days passed, and Joseph prepared a grand feast, for he desired to welcome them with honor. "Let the finest of Egypt be set before them," he commanded his servants, "for all we have is a gift from God to share with my family." As the caravan approached, Jacob offered sacrifices to the Lord at Beersheba, invoking blessings as he entered a land unfamiliar, yet filled with promise. And when at last the sight of the multitudes of Egypt met him, emotion swept over him, a cascade of joy interwoven with the threads of doubt. The moment arrived that Joseph, now adorned in the garments of authority, stood upon the threshold overlooking the city. There they were, his brothers and the long-awaited sight of his father. He could hardly contain himself. Tears of gratitude welled in his eyes as he rushed toward them, embracing them fiercely, igniting a reunion wrought with the profound weight of years lost. Yet amid the joy, Joseph's heart wrestled with a deeper truth, for the moment of revelation was yet to come. He meant to reveal not merely his identity, but the greater calling that rested upon them all. "Come near to me," he beckoned gently, both to his brothers and to his father, as they gathered around him. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt." The air grew heavy with the gravity of this revelation, and his brothers stood speechless, astonishment blanketing their faces. Yet Joseph continued, "Do not be distressed, nor angered with yourselves because you sold me here, for it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." Jacob gasped, the revelation sinking deep into his heart, mingling with confusion, grief, and overwhelming joy. Understanding enveloped the family, a moment charged with divine destiny. Joseph spoke further, "For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and there are yet 5 years to come, lest you and your household perish." As Jacob and his sons took in the magnitude of God's provision, a stirring began within their hearts. The journey to Egypt would not only be one of survival. Jacob sensed a divine transformation nestled within God's plans, and with it came the sense of a covenant fulfilled. "Now, therefore," Joseph concluded, his voice steady with conviction, "you shall dwell in the land of Goshen and be near to me, you and your children and your children's children, for there is a greater purpose in our unity." While Joseph spoke, the shadows stirred within the court of Pharaoh. The advisers, plotting and scheming, retreated into the silence of darkened corners, whispering of how they might undermine the growing influence of the Hebrew family. And so the stage is set, not merely for a reunion, but for a divine orchestration that promised to reshape the destiny of nations. What trials lay ahead, veiled in hardship, awaited their unearthing. For as Jacob settled into Egypt, a whisper swept through the ages. "Even in the trials to come, I shall weave my people into my sovereign plan. The promised seed shall emerge." And it came to pass that Jacob, having embraced his son Joseph, found rest in the land of Goshen, where the past pains slowly succumbed to the promise of a brighter future. The days turned into weeks, and the family gathered around the table, feasting on the abundance provided by the land of Pharaoh. Yet as they shared bread and future hopes, Joseph's heart was heavy with a secret he had yet to unveil.
In the still of the night, when the stars blanketed the sky, Joseph would often slip away to the fields, reflecting on the trials that had led him to this moment. The dreams of his youth echoed within him, calling forth memories of threats and betrayals, but now he recognized that every event, the pit, the slavery, the rise to power, had shaped him for a divine purpose. But what shall be revealed now, he pondered, for even this sacred reunion holds layers yet untold. Meanwhile, at the courts of Pharaoh, those envious whispers grew louder. The advisors, stricken by animosity and concern for their own positions, conspired together, aiming to exploit the new family's prominence. What if their numbers grow? What if they rise against us? Their hearts murmured like shadows lurking within the halls. Thus they devised a scheme, intending to plant distrust in the heart of Pharaoh. The sun had risen when Joseph summoned his brothers and met them in the threshing floor, looking with compassion true in his eyes. "Brothers," he spoke, "the journey we have embarked upon carries not merely our spirits, but also our destinies. I have kept a part of my heart hidden, for there is something you must know." The brothers exchanged glances laden with uncertainty as Joseph continued. "In the spirit of unity, I shall unveil my wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. She bore me 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. I name them so because in the land of my affliction, God has made me forget my pain and blessed me abundantly." At the mention of Asenath, his brothers stood in awe. They had not known of this part of his life, and Joseph's words held weight, meaning not just for their past, but for the lineage of Israel itself. Each name whispered promises: Manasseh, who shall forget the trials, and Ephraim, who shall be fruitful. Suddenly, Jacob, overhearing the mention of his grandsons, summoned Joseph to him, his eyes gleaming with both pride and protective instinct. "Bring forth these sons," he commanded.
For I carry the blessing of our forefathers, and they too are heirs to this covenant. And so upon the lap of his father, Manasseh and Ephraim were laid, their yields of faith intertwined with the ancestral elements of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob raised his hands and invoked the blessings, guiding the children's future in alignment with the promise of the covenant. "May these sons grow great in the land, may nations rise from them, and may they be a blessing unto my descendants." Yet while blessing was spoken, God's plan stretched further still, for the shadow of Pharaoh's court loomed closer. The advisors, growing bolder with treachery, conspired to bring strife. "If they be more than us, their loyalty shall dangle like a guillotine over our heads," they whispered, intent on thwarting the unfolding destiny. And thus, with hearts swelling with conjoined hopes and rising dangers, the stage was set for deeper trials. Jacob settled in, feeling the weight of divine intention, while outside, the drumming of discord began to echo through the land. The whispers of God remained clear amid the chaos. "Through trials and tribulations I prepare a way. My covenant shall prevail." What new perplexities awaited this chosen family under Pharaoh's reign? The tapestry of their lives thickened, resolute in divine promise. For as God's plan unfolded, revealing hidden blessings for a greater calling, the path remained veiled in mystery, promising that even in shadows, light and truth would emerge. And it came to pass after the blessings were bestowed, the days in Goshen thereby flourished, and with them the family of Jacob multiplied exceedingly. As the sun rose and set across the fertile plains, God graced the household with abundance. However, unease rippled through the courts of Pharaoh like darkness encroaching upon the light. The advisors of Pharaoh, irritated and envious, gathered in secret once more. "This family grows strong, bolstered by the favor of the famine's savior," they proclaimed, their hearts filled with treachery. "We must whisper to Pharaoh of their great numbers and sow seeds of doubt within his mind. Fear them, lest they rise above us." Thus they stirred the pot of discontent, weaving tales of Joseph and his brethren, casting shadows over their integrity. "What if their loyalty lies to another land? What if their numbers threaten our very reign?" they inquired with venomous tongues, eager to unsettle the peace that enveloped Egypt. Meanwhile, Joseph, unaware of the brewing storm, engaged daily in the affairs of the land, his wisdom sought by many. He observed the flourishing of both cattle and crops, marveling at God's bounty bestowed upon him and his kin. Yet still his soul bore the weight of an unseen burden. The memories of his betrayal lingered, and he contemplated the vision imparted to him in dreams long ago, the sheaves of wheat bowing down, the sun, moon, and stars rendering homage to him.
Gathering his family, Joseph spoke again. "Brothers, truly the Lord has walked with me in these years, but I sense the winds change above us. We must remain steadfast in faith, for the threats of men will rise as foam upon the waves. His voice bore the tremors of an impending storm as he sought to fortify their hearts in unity. Yet unbeknownst to Joseph, the shifting of shadows had stirred something even deeper within Jacob. His spirit was restless. With every passing day, he sought the faces of his forefathers, longing to understand his family's destiny amid this rich land. One night, in a dream filled with divine imagery, he envisioned a ladder reaching to the heavens, and upon it angels ascending and descending, a promise echoing, "Your descendants shall return to the land of their fathers. This will not be their final home." Awakening, Jacob's heart thundered. He understood that the presence of the Lord was no mere comfort, but a call to action. He called forth Joseph. "My son, it is time we speak of the future. Our covenant with God is yet unfolding. As he has prospered you, he will send us forth to carry forth his promise." And as Jacob spoke, the melancholy mist that loomed over his heart dissipated, replaced by a resolve strong as iron. Joseph listened, conviction igniting within him as he felt the weight of his father's words. Eager yet apprehensive, he turned to his sons. "Manasseh and Ephraim, you are heirs to a mighty promise. Remember that in every trial, God's hand guides us." But lo, even as they spoke family and lineage, the whispers of Pharaoh's court deepened. An envoy was prepared to approach Joseph, bearing news of a declaration that would alter the course of their lives once more. What revelations awaited in the court? Would the favor of Joseph withstand the tides of envy and discontent? And thus, as they roiled yet clung to hope, the unseen hand of God began to unfold a greater narrative, a tapestry rich with prophecy and divine intention. For within the shadows of adversity lay the promise of empowerment, one that would echo through generations, a truth yet to be revealed. And it came to pass that the envoy, a man of stature and command, approached Joseph, his heart heavy with the weight of the message he bore. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows upon the ground, as he entered the presence of Joseph, whose wisdom was renowned throughout the land. "Joseph, son of Jacob," the envoy began, his voice steady yet edged with urgency, "Pharaoh has decreed that all who dwell in Egypt shall be counted, lest your people rise to power and usurp his throne. Your kin are not of this land, and their numbers have grown vast. By decree of Pharaoh they shall be placed under taskmasters, that their might may be diminished, and in their labor they may lose heart and cease to multiply." As the words echoed through the chambers, Joseph's heart sank with the weight of the foreboding.
He was aware that their prosperity had drawn the eyes of rulers. Still, this was a trial beyond his foresight. He stood before the envoy, righteous indignation mingling with the unease that stirred within him. "Tell Pharaoh," Joseph replied, his voice firm as a rock, "that the God of my father Jacob is a God of deliverance and strength. Should he seek to bind us, he shall witness the hand of the Almighty. For we are but sojourners in this land, but his promise shall remain with us." As the envoy departed, Joseph gathered his family near him, the weight of the news pressing heavily upon his shoulders. He looked into the faces of his brothers and sons, seeing in their eyes a mix of confusion and fear. "Brothers, the trials shall increase, yet God has not forsaken us. In times of darkness, we must stand together and preserve the bond we share." In that moment, Jacob, having heard the commotion, entered the tent and approached his son. "Joseph, my heart is disturbed. Did the envoy bring ill tidings?" "The days ahead may be fraught with peril, father," Joseph declared, "yet we must draw upon the heritage of our ancestors. The God of our fathers has led us thus far, and it is he who shall deliver us from what may come." Jacob's eyes twinkled with a fiery resolve. "Then we must prepare ourselves, for our God is not idle. Let us gather together and recount the promises laid forth, that our hearts may be lifted above despair." Each member of the family, from aged Jacob to the youngest of his sons, began to share the promises of the Lord, how he had chosen Abraham to be the father of many nations, how he had saved Isaac from sacrifice, and how he had made Jacob a prince among men. They spoke of the covenant that enabled them to rise above adversities, holding fast to the truth that their lineage was blessed. But in the depths of the night, as the stars twinkled brighter in the heavens, Joseph lay awake, wrestling with the fear of what was to come. In the silence,
he recalled the dreams that had haunted him, dreams of greatness, but also dreams of struggle. As he prayed, a figure approached him, a comforting presence in the still darkness. "Joseph," the voice resonated softly, "do not be dismayed, for your path is sealed by heaven's decree. A wife awaits you, one who shall aid in carrying forth the promise. She is of Egypt, and her heart shall turn to your people, intertwining your destinies in service to the Almighty." With the dawn of the new day, fresh light illuminated Joseph's spirit. He arose with renewed purpose, understanding that God's hand was orchestrating events beyond his comprehension. As he prepared to navigate the trials and the decree of Pharaoh, he understood that through this hidden union, a new chapter in God's sovereign plan was to unfold. For indeed, what lay ahead was not mere survival, but the unveiling of God's wondrous ways, a destiny yet unknown that would reshape the tribes of Israel.
Thus, the tapestry of their lives began to weave together, leading them to divine encounters and fulfillment of prophecy, where God's promises would echo loud and clear for generations to come. And it came to pass that the years unfolded in Egypt, where Joseph's family thrived, yet in the shadows of Pharaoh's court, discord grew like weeds among fertile vines. The decree had gone forth. The people of Israel were to be oppressed, their hands to toil under taskmasters, to break their spirits. Yet even as darkness loomed, faith illuminated the hearts of Joseph and his kin, for they knew the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob stood true to the covenant promises. Joseph, steadfast in his role as overseer, gathered his brothers and their children. "Fear not what man may plan against us," he implored, his voice resonant with conviction. "For the Lord our God has spoken through our forefathers, and his promises remain unbroken. Though trials may arise, we are bolstered by his strength." Jacob, now aged and wise, nodded in agreement. "Our lives are woven into his grand design. This oppression shall be a crucible, a work of his hands to refine and unite us." And thus they gathered in prayer, invoking the spirit of their ancestors, seeking the Lord's wisdom and comfort. As they interceded, God's hand began to work mightily, bringing forth a spirit of resistance within the hearts of his people. The more they pressed down upon the Israelites, the more they multiplied. Fear gripped Pharaoh's advisors as they reported the growing numbers, and Pharaoh's heart hardened, for he knew they were a people favored by God. In the clandestine corners of the palace, a plan brewed among the rulers, plotting to sow seeds of hatred among the Egyptians against the Israelites. Yet even as darkness schemed, God's light was unfurling. Joseph, attuned to the currents of divine purpose, kept watch. He approached Pharaoh, his heart resolute yet tender. "Great king, I beseech you to understand. Their increase is not a threat, but a divine intention. If we honor them, you shall witness the bounties return to you tenfold." Pharaoh regarded Joseph with both fear and fascination. "Your words ignite a flame of hope, but what shall quell the unrest in the hearts of my own people?" "The spirit of unity must be invoked," Joseph urged, "for every family belongs to the promise of our land. Let me serve as a bridge, a mediator between our two nations, proving that bonds of mutual respect can flourish among diversity." Pharaoh, intrigued by Joseph's conviction, summoned his advisors, allowing the plan to marinate in the council's hearts. And as uncertainty clouded their minds, Joseph approached the people of Israel, his family, the tribe of Jacob, and spoke, "Brothers, our call to unity is greater than the trials we face. Together we must cultivate lives that honor the one who sustains us."
His words resonated like branches swaying in the wind among the people, prompting a renewed commitment to faith, envisioning not just for themselves, but for the generations yet to come. Yet the burden of the Pharaoh's decree weighed heavily upon the menacing shadows of taskmasters. Still, hope ignited. Hands stayed strong with the knowledge of God's eternal promise. Joseph's two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, embodied the hope for the future, their unique heritage merging Egyptian prosperity with Israelite faith. One sacred night, as the stars blanketed the heavens, Joseph received word from Asenath, his beloved wife. The fruit of their union, a son had been born. "This child will be a light amidst the encroaching darkness," he thought, for he understood, with every birth, God's promise weaved deeper into the fabric of existence. And so it was that, in the land of Goshen, nestled among the fertile fields, Joseph and Asenath gathered their children. "You, descendants of Abraham," Joseph proclaimed, "shall tell the tales of our God's faithfulness.
Our stories will become the lifeblood of nations yet to be born. The children listened in rapt attention, sparks of destiny illuminating their eyes. And when oppression presses down upon us, he continued, remember, it is in these moments that God shall arise and envelop us in his faithful embrace. Stand firm, for his hand is upon us. Days turned to months and years rolled by, yet no sign of relief came through Pharaoh's decree. The Israelites toiled, their spirits baited, yet those whom God had chosen knew that the time would come when they would walk free into the promised land. Then, at last, the hour grew late. Oppression had taken root, yet God stirred the heart of Pharaoh, igniting a whisper of dread within him. The cries of the oppressed rose in a tempest before the throne, and the God of Israel stirred within his people. In the quiet of the night, against the backdrop of palpable tension, God called forth Moses, the chosen vessel to lead his people out of bondage. The resolve of Joseph, the wisdom of Asenath, and the faith of Jacob became the groundwork on which deliverance would rise. Thus, within the encampments of Israel, the eyes turned upward. Our time is at hand, echoed the voices, as they raised their collective prayers toward heaven. God's faithful hand prepared a great deliverance, painting the canvas of their liberation. And soon, as it is written, a new dawn would break upon the horizon, a renewal of purpose. In that promise lay the hope of nations. The thread of Joseph's legacy merged with the unfolding story of deliverance, a tapestry woven through trials, faith, and divine promise. And as the echoes of their prayers lingered in the air, they began to grasp one profound truth. Every trial had shaped them, every heartache forged them, bringing forth a people bound by covenant, destined to change the course of history.
Each step we take shall resound through the ages, they declared, united in purpose. For we are not merely survivors, we are the chosen, the bearers of blessing, the pathway through which God shall breathe life into destinies yet unseen. With that, the dawn broke forth, heralding a new era, igniting hope and anticipation across all of Israel, a divine orchestration to the symphony of salvation. And now, dear friend, as this mighty narrative reaches its conclusion, I invite you to continue on this journey of faith. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next powerful biblical stories that deepen your understanding of God's Word and His unfailing love. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm. Your engagement means more souls touched by His truth. Comment below with your reflections on this transformative biblical story and share how it has impacted your faith journey. And finally, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth today. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony of hope and love in Christ. Remember, the stories of God's faithfulness transcend generations. Your action here can lead others to experience His miraculous love.